Welcome to the official Kingdom Hearts HD 1.5 Remix boss ranking from easiest to hardest, approved by Walt Disney and Tetsuya Nomura themselves. In this video, I will rank every single boss and mini-boss from the whole game from easiest to hardest. I finished the game maybe around 12 to 14 times throughout my entire life, so most of it's gonna be based on later playthroughs. However, I feel pretty confident that I still remember so much from my very first playthrough that I'm gonna do my best to base it on how I did on my very first one 19 years ago. There might be entries here where you point your 9-inch finger at the screen and yell, "Hey, that's not a boss!" But unfortunately, the video's already been made and I can't hear you either, so feel free to explain how much you disagree with me in the comment section below and I'll think about it. I lied about this list being official, by the way. It's entirely based on my own opinion, but I'm right anyway, so I don't even know why I said that. Let's begin with number 59. If we were to rank the bosses of Kingdom Hearts in terms of who scared me the most as a child, I think I'd rank Glut the highest. I even used to hide in the little dinghy at the seafloor and wait for Donald and Goofy to reduce his HP to 1 so I could come out and smack him once to finish the job, because I was so scared of him. Boy, was I wrong to assume this COD was a threat whatsoever. Maybe he was in the original game and my Galley-phobia is warranted, but on this playthrough of the remix, it took me about 4 combos to beat him. Do I regard the random encounters with Sabor as a boss fight? Yes, I do. What are you gonna do about it? Really though, I don't have much to say about her. She can't really do much, if anything at all, against you and the boys. Moving on. Yes, Selphie's a boss. Kind of. Look, you're at such a low level when fighting her on Destiny Islands that she stands above most regular enemies in the game, but with that said, she's only got a couple annoying attacks, nothing lethal. I think most people forget about Yuffie when thinking about KH bosses, but there's probably a reason for that. Yuffie's really not the worst to deal with even when she's paired with Leon, so it probably comes to no surprise that she's even easier to deal with when she's all alone. She's got absolutely no tools to handle you, Doorbell, and Goblin absolutely blasting her to high heaven as she tries to play cool and says things like, "Is that supposed to hurt?" Yes, Yuffie, I can tell it absolutely does. Now for the boss that probably most people recognize as the easiest boss in the game, Rock Titan. As long as you're using Second Chance, an ability that always leaves you on 1 HP from any attack unless you're at 1 HP already, there's absolutely nothing Graveler over here can do. Sure, he may smack you hard as hell, but if he gives you 10 whole seconds to heal back to full HP every time, does it really matter? This guy's a disgrace as the final boss of Hades Cup. We're only 6 bosses in and we've already had 2 bosses from the Hades Cup. I'm starting to notice a pattern here, a pattern that only goes on with the destroyed Behemoth. Not only have you already fought this guy before and probably defeated quite easily, but you're now at an even higher level. The same points I made about Rock Titan applies for destroyed Behemoth as well. His attacks simply take too long to land for any of them to be a threat whatsoever. He's harder than the final boss of Hades Cup though, so at least he's got that going for him. Imagine the first boss, but except being the first boss, it's the 4th final boss. That's exactly what Darkseid in the End of the World feels like fighting. I know he's only there to show the player how far Sora has come and probably also to pad out the final boss fight. I mean, come on. Maybe he'd be harder if I didn't force feed Sora levels like a maniac before even attempting the final boss, but I do every time, and so do you. Don't lie to me. And we're back to Hades Cup, going strong with 4 out of the 8 easiest bosses in the game. It's literally the exact same boss you fight way earlier in the game, but you're simply at a much higher level this time around, so he can do basically nothing. Imagine the 4th final boss, but except being the 4th final boss, it's the first boss. That sounds horrifying on paper, but I've already given you context as to why that's not the case. In my opinion, this dude is perfectly balanced as the first boss encounter of the game. I can't recall if I've ever died to him, even as a 7-year-old, but I don't think I have. He feels like a threat though, so that might be why I haven't ranked him any lower, but he shouldn't be higher either in my opinion. He is just fine sitting in this spot. So at this point, you've already encountered Sabor a couple of times, so when you fight her in the bamboo thicket, you already know most of her attacks. You're also accompanied by your teammates this time around, and you'll probably proceed to knock the living crap out of this washed up leopard. Even Tarzan could beat it on his own. The name of this boss isn't exactly the easiest thing to come across, but I'm pretty sure it's called World of Chaos, which is kind of cringy, but you should be pretty numb to cringe at the end of the game anyway. I remember this thing being way harder than it was on this playthrough, so he keeps somewhat of a decent spot for posterity's sake. He's got like, what, 1 attack? It hurts like hell at a low level, but come on, you're not gonna be a low level at this point unless you're one of those filthy level 1 runners. Oh hey, it's Darkseid again, but this time on Destiny Islands. As the second time you encounter this guy in the game, he's got a new attack to show you, but it's only a bit annoying. I've already talked about this guy enough, so I'm just gonna move on to the next spot. The trend of taking too long between attacks we've already seen with a lot of the big bosses, also Gimp's opposite armor. I swear he hits like a truck when he lands something, but he just doesn't. Like, I'm sorry, I'm just too good at the game right now. So the second fight with Jafar, where he's a literal god, is somehow easier than the first time, where he floats around in slippers. Here's an idea. Just carry your own goddamn lamp instead of trusting you to Yago. I mean, really? Like, is it hot in here or is it just me? Ah yes, Tidus, the little boy with a stick that I find harder to beat than a god. You might underestimate Tidus, but that doesn't make him particularly hard either. As long as you're feeling lucky, you'll have no problem here. Behemoth, in all its glory. The only time I will say Behemoth actually gives Sora and the gang any trouble is probably in Hollow Bastion, but the resistance is barely noticeable. His attacks are so slow you can watch a whole season of your favorite show and still have time to heal back up. The first time you fight Jafar is where he spits some sick bars. And Genie's here, doing next to nothing despite being, you know, a god. The fight is more annoying than anything else, as Jafar will float around seemingly at random, pop up on a platform before changing his mind and float to another one, calling Sora a nerd the whole time. What is with gods being so easy to defeat in Kingdom Hearts? Excuse me, half god. I guess that's why Hercules is allergic to barrels. He has to be, right? That's the only explanation I have as to why they make him temporarily vulnerable to damage. He doesn't take thunder damage though, which I found out on my most recent playthrough, so that's interesting, but it's not like you were gonna thunder spam him anyway. The Queen of Hearts and her loyal playing card soldiers can actually be harder or easier depending on whether or not you pick the right box at Alice's trial, but it barely makes a difference, though I wish more fights would do this. Anyway, as long as you stay airborne a lot, you'd be amazed at how little the card soldiers can actually do to you. Okay, this is the final time I'm gonna talk about Sabor, okay? Or is it? Yeah, it is. Or is it? This is the hardest out of the Sabor fights in my opinion, and I think it just comes down to you not having any teammates nearby. You're probably also a couple levels lower than the other encounters, and you've got little space to work with. I think it's the first fight in the game that forces you to use dodge rolls to beat effectively, which I think is cool. More of that, please. How can I possibly justify putting Wakka this high on the list? I don't know, you're at a low level when you fight him and he's also got a super attack. Yeah, he's actually the only kid on Destiny Islands with a super attack, not even Riku has one of those. If you can get good at smashing his own balls into his face, he's a cakewalk though. I could have sworn Lock, Shock, and Barrel had a lot more HP in the original game, but I'm not complaining, because I remember them being quite a handful back then. I wouldn't follow any particular strategy here, just hit whatever unfortunate infant is in your vicinity and mow them down, like my grandpa used to say. The first time you fight Cerberus is probably also the first time you get genuinely stressed out fighting a boss in this game, but he's really a lot of bark and no bite. Not literally, mind you, he actually never barks and bites 50% of the time. Black Genie, ladies and gentlemen. Can we get a big round of applause for Black Genie? So this whole fight with Ansem on the beach of fake Destiny Islands is about not getting hit by a very specific attack, and if you do, you just don't do anything, or else this happens. Black Genie, ladies and gentlemen. Pot Centipede is the name of the heartless boss in Agrabah, and also my drug dealer. The fight can seem random at times when it comes to when you can deal damage to it, and vice versa, and it's not very exciting either, but I guess it lets you walk through the streets of Agrabah freely, so that's cool. But is it hard? No, not in the slightest, but thank you for asking though. This is my favorite fight in the entire game. I know this is a weird pick, but it's so wholly unique to anything I can think of in the entire Kingdom Hearts franchise. There were so many different things Oogie Boogie's arena could do for the time where the game was released, and while that's not much by today's standards, it still holds up in my opinion. Wonderfully voiced by James Woods, the deadpan expression of Hades always puts a smile on my face. The only attack to really watch out for is when he goes to the middle of the arena and starts spinning pillars of fire around, and it's always exciting to try and guess which way he's gonna spin. Well, Donkey and Goomba can never figure it out, so they're probably having a terrible time. Dirty Anime taught me that tentacles are good, but in KH, tentacles are bad. Or at least that's the case with Ursula. You need to spam her cauldron with magic to stun her and then deal damage to her, but when I was 7 years old, I didn't use magic other than to heal, so she stopped taking damage at a certain point, which ended up becoming a very heated argument with my parents when I wouldn't come out of my room to eat dinner with our guests because I just couldn't finish the damn battle. I know better now, obviously, but this battle still holds a decent spot because of how I remember her. Man, we're really getting all these Disney villains back to back here. Maleficent is somehow not the hardest out of the Disney bosses to beat. There's actually a couple more, but I'll get to them. Who knew all-out aggression would be Maleficent's greatest weakness? You should be able to unintentionally dodge your way through most of her attacks, but that's okay, because it hurts a lot once you actually do get hit. Okay, hear me out. I know the fight with Parasite Cage in the stomach is fought right after you fight it in the bowels, and it is also objectively harder on paper. But you literally just figured out a way to efficiently take the boss down, so the poison in the arena does not make a difference. More on that later. Actually, the hardest of Maleficent's gang to beat in my opinion is Captain Hook. Yeah, I said it. He's not too bad to fight on his own, but if you get hit by one of the Heartless that spawn occasionally throughout the fight right after taking a hit from the Crook Hook, you might actually die. He hits like a truck, and unlike most of his homies, he actually hits more than he misses. How about that? Ansem steps up his game when he fights you in the Destiny Islands crater in End of the World, and he also blocks out Don Carlos and Gerald from the fight, adding that extra layer of difficulty to the mix. He's not a pushover this time around. You actually need to plan around his attacks while you still try to avoid Black Genie! This fight can be harder or easier depending on which route you choose, so it's difficult to know for sure exactly where to put him. I always do Wonderland, Deep Jungle, and then Olympus Coliseum, in that order, so it might be harder for you. It's one of those fights in the game that progresses the story even if you win or lose, so it can be frustrating having to reload your save file and finish the preliminary cup just to beat him, but that's the life I've chosen, I guess. You might sit there and think that I've already mentioned a ton of bosses that are objectively harder than Riku on Destiny Islands, but it's so early in the game I don't feel like you're canonically meant to beat him, and it shows. He's got a health bar larger than his ego and punishes you for trying to land combos on him. It's a slugfest and it takes forever, so it's probably one of the most boring fights in the whole game. Oh hey, it's this guy. If you've seen my playthrough, you can see how I actually died to this guy because I underestimated his damage output. You even have Riku here to help. I was about to say you have Riku here to help you, but he actually does nothing helpful except yelling advice from the sidelines. There's no poison this time around either, so I guess I ranked this guy higher than his second fight only because you still need to figure out his weird move patterns. Ansem levels up again and turns himself into a boat, and Black Genie goes Super Saiyan. It's quite an alright fight, you just need to tank your way through to win. No strategy here, just pure statistics. Wait, I'm sorry, this is the same fight, hold on. Wait, no, actually, this is another fight. So what's the difference here? Well, there is no difference. Oh, he does a black hole attack. Oh, I see. I've never been hit by it though, but I guess it hurts like a truck, so I'll rank him higher than his first fight, just in case. Ursula steals King Triton's trident, try saying that over and over, and becomes extra thick. Her attacks have a lot less chill this time around, and her manic eyes just keep following around throughout the battle. Damn, lady, you can't just stare at me with those lustful eyes like that. You know I can't resist, baby. Honestly, I underestimated these guys in my playthrough and almost got my ass handed to me. I already said that Yuffie's useless on her own, but try having the great edgelord that is Leon chasing you around the entire time and you actually have yourself a decent challenge on your hands. If you're at the appropriate level, that is, of course. Kicking off our top 20 is Riku in the Hollow Bastion entrance hall. I could have sworn there's somewhere on the side you can hang off of where Riku can't reach you, but my experiment failed, so I had to do it the proper way. Turns out this guy is actually dangerous when Dinosaur and Gaslight aren't around to help you. Oogie Boogie goes Big Chungus in Sora and the gang, and also grows black warts which you need to destroy. If you have a problem with Kingdom Hearts platforming, you are going to have a bad time. And if you haven't already acquired High Jump from Monstro, then you are really gonna have a bad time. It's all about killing those black warts all over his body, but if you fall off and have to normal jump your way back up, you will have a bad time. The fight with guard armor is probably the fight in the game that I find to have the worst design mechanics. There's no real strategy to beat it, you just need to be at a level where your attacks kill it faster than it kills you. Also, look how they massacred my boy with this recolor. What's with this color scheme? Like, ew! So Leon ditched Yuffie and found himself a boyfriend that can actually protect him. Fighting Cloud and Leon can be a stressful experience at the appropriate level, but it's all about not letting both their health bars drop to a point where they can both use their special abilities. Just kill one of them before the other. I recommend starting with Leon. The Cave of Wonders is another fight I'm having trouble ranking, because every playthrough it seems so random to me whether I find it hard or not. On this playthrough it was a cakewalk, but I know I've struggled with this guy on probably most of my playthroughs throughout the year, so I'm letting him stay here for posterity's sake. Probably the most iconic fight in the whole Kingdom Hearts franchise is the fight against Riku possessed by Ansem. He's really easy to deal with once you've actually mastered the game, but my god if this guy hasn't caused me a lot of trouble. And don't lie to me, I know you struggled with this guy at some point in your life, you're not slick, I know you know this guy's entire monologue. This is another fight that's just really damn hard if you're not at the appropriate level. His hitbox is so weird because it can only be reached about 50% of the time at the top of Sora's jump, so you can just hit him like once every other jump, and that takes a while. Or you can just jump off the chair on the table like a beta, but whatever, Stacy won't love you anyway. This is the guy that should have been the real champion of Hercules Cup, because at this point in the game, Cloud can actually beat your ass cheeks like it's nobody's business. He's using his special ability for the first time here, and he can really make you work to dodge his toilet paper wrap bastard sword. Like, that dodge requires some proper timing to pull off. Not a boss in the traditional sense, but more of a boss encounter, if you will, is the race with Riku on Destiny Islands. You're not meant to win this on your first playthrough, honestly. If you miss one jump, it's practically over. Even I'm stressing when racing him to this day, and I've done this a lot. Oh yeah, and he's also a dick. Why does anyone like Riku? Like, for real. The fight with Selphie, Tidus, and Wakka is the first boss in Kingdom Hearts I would describe as being downright hard. At this point of the game, you should not be able to beat this trio. There's just no way. Maybe if you level up a bit, but if you're staying at Destiny Islands to grind, you're wasting your time. Like, come on. Here we go, top 10 hardest boss encounters in the Kingdom Hearts remix. This is one of the only Disney villains in the entire game that's not part of Maleficent's gang, and he's pissed about it, like it was denied in an interview and rushed out of the door yelling "Blasted gorillas." This is, at least in my opinion, the first real roadblock you might encounter in Kingdom Hearts, because you don't have access to heal magic until after this fight. Maleficent heard he was talking trash and turns into a dragon, just like in the movie. I remember being a kid, hiding under the branches, spamming my parry, waiting for Dingus and Garfield to wake up so they could just do that little bit more damage, all the way until I could just swoop in and deal the last hit to kill her after like 50 minutes. Oh, that was great. Just think about the fact that the most dangerous thing produced by Maleficent's gang is a minion created by a minion. Anti-Sora still kicks my ass to this day. He hits so deceptively hard. The fight's very claustrophobic, not fun at all, and damn it's hard. You might want to grind a couple levels before taking on this guy. Like the absolute Chad he is, Chernobog stands with his feet in a volcano while boiling himself alive just to kill Sora and the dudes. He even has his own theme. This dude slaps ass and takes names. You're probably really surprised to see Leon of all people this high on the list, but hear me out. You're not meant to win here. You're just not. Even if you win, you lose. That's how badass he is. Leon will kick your ass into submission over and over until you find that one broken strategy to beat him. So the top 5 hardest bosses are obviously gonna be all the secret optional bosses in the game, but how do I rank them, you might wonder? Well, Phantom takes the number 5 spot because once you actually find the proper build and strategy, it's really not that hard to pull off. Just spam him with the correct magic and make sure you bring Gromit instead of Dalmatian because of the extra MP he can provide, and for the love of God, just let Peter Pan die! He's basically on Phantom's team here, the way he takes the white hearts away from you. At number 4, we have the hardest Heartless boss in the entire game, Kurt Zisa. Not only is it the hardest Heartless boss in the game, but he's also got the coolest design out of all of them. There's a constant ebb and flow of using physical and magic attacks to take him down, which is really cool. Not my favorite fight, but really cool. Ice Titan takes the number 3 spot because his attacks are exceptionally hard to dodge and or block, which really forces you and Heal Magic to become best friends. This fight requires your full attention to make sure you can avoid the constant barrages of abilities he throws at you. But who could possibly be harder than Ice Titan, you might ask, or not. If you know anything about this game, it's pretty obvious which 2 bosses are harder than Ice Titan. The runner-up for hardest boss in the Kingdom Hearts remix is Unknown, which we all know is secretly Max Goof. He has this very annoying attack that forces you to play whack-a-mole with your action bar, something you've never done up until this point, and if you can't do it, you die. You just die. You die. The hardest boss in Kingdom Hearts is obviously Sephiroth. You all know it, there's no competition. He's meant to be the hardest. And the biggest reason is probably his 2-hit kill combo, which is an attack that steals all your health except 1 if you have the second chance ability equipped, and all your MP, meaning you can't just heal back up after this, so you either need to interrupt it, or what I thought you had to do as a kid, throw a potion on yourself right before it hits, so it will heal you before he runs up and taps your last health point away. And of course, he's got his own boss theme. And that concludes the ranking of every single boss encounter in the Kingdom Hearts remix, and wow, what a great list. Wasn't that a great list? I might just have to give that one a like and a comment, and then subscribe so I can get new videos just like this in my feed when they come out. But in all seriousness, this video took me about a month to make, and during that time we got ourselves 50 subscribers and counting. So thank you all so much for that. It means a lot to me that complete strangers on the internet actually cares even the slightest about what I have to say. I'm already excited to show you guys what game I have in store for my next playthrough and boss ranking. Okay, love you, bye.